Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the podcast with Bobby Beans. Give you guys a second to get situated here. Quick note, if you are watching this and it's a replay, if you're not watching it live, you can just leave a replay in the comments. We're just learning who's watching when and making sure we got the best time situated for everybody. Appreciate everybody's support who's able to stop out tonight on a wonderful Friday night. If it's like it is in Green Bay, it's a good time to be inside. It's just wet and not that fun out. When we get things kicked off, hey, Austin, thanks for stopping out, man. Well, get things kicked off here. Do want to give a big shout out to our sponsors at Higher Love. You'll see their name at the top of the page here. There's a promo code there. If you use that, you'll be able to get 15% off your next purchase. That is good in store and online. Make sure that you take advantage of that. What's up, Dustin? Thanks for stopping by. Francisco, Randall, Barbie. Holy cow, we got the whole crew here. Appreciate everybody stopping out. Busy week this week for sure. Got to spend some time in Madison. If you've ever been to the Capitol building, it is not made for people who consume cannabis. It is like a big circle. Well, he can. What's up, man? Appreciate you stopping out, Christy. I got lost a couple times. There's a lot of directions, a lot of numbers. The ground floor is ground and not one, so that kept tripping me up. I got a parking ticket because I forgot about that. They have a lot of slots that are 25-minute only parking, and now I figured out where they are, but it took me a while because I'd park, get ready to get out, go to pay the meter, and it says 25 minutes only. I'm learning, man. I'm learning. Hey, Bubba, let's get it legalized. That's right. Let's do this. But no, had a lot of great visits out in Madison. Was surprised to see. I was expecting a lot of the Republicans to be kind of like not that talkative about it. Just from what Voss proposed, I was assuming that that's what everyone thought was a great idea. And that definitely didn't seem to be the case. So that was awesome to see here. And we got quite a few of them lined up to be on a podcast coming up here. So definitely looking forward to that. You bet, Devin, man. I got you. I'm doing everything I can. I'll keep bringing you guys any information I come up with. But again, I thought it would be great to get some of these guys on the podcast so they can share exactly how they feel about legalization. I was surprised to hear that they felt the current bill was too restrictive, and even some of them mentioned like talking to Agard and stuff. So I thought it'd be a great time for us to look over Agard's bill. I didn't know if everybody here got a chance to look at that it came out in, I think it was about October of last year, and I just wanted to show the difference between what we have in the pill bill and what we have and what. Hey, that sounds good, Chris. You're good, my man. Appreciate the support. And just look at what maybe a real bill looks like as opposed to the one that we've been stuck with here so far. So kind of wanted to jump into that. Let me get my page up here so you guys can see it. Share screen. We're going to go boom. And entire screen on the second one. All right, there we go. So let me make sure I grab the right link. Here we go. All right, so I just kind of wanted to roll through this with you guys and let you see what a detailed bill looks like. See what we can make of it, see what our thoughts are when we, again, compare it to the super restricted bill that's out there from Mr. Voss. Shout out to Mr. Voss. I'm still waiting to hear back on if we can set up a time to meet. I would love to pick your brain on legalization. And I will stop by your office again next week to leave my information once again. Not sure what else to do there. But no, when we look at the bill here, you can just tell there's a lot more thought into this and a lot more things that make sense. When it comes to recreational purposes, again, adult responsible use or recreational, as long as you're 21 or older, and 60% of the revenue collected from the tax is deposited into a segregated fund called the Community Reinvestment Fund. That just sounds genius to me. Under the bill, a person may possess medical, is not subject to sales or excess tax on the purchase. That would make sense. The bill does not affect federal law, which generally prohibits persons from manufacturing, delivering, or possessing. Again, the fact that this bill is already starting to make sense, we can tie it to, this does not affect federal law. Da, 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 da. I feel like Voss's bill is a lot more just here's what I think might work. And again, to hear that Republicans are in agreement that they're this can't be our only option. I'm thinking that it's really going to be good to get those guys on here and, help us come up with ideas to get this thing rolling. Please remember the petition that we have rolling around. That is to get a chance to have a public hearing on legalization. And I think if we could show up and show our support for this bill as opposed to Mr. Voss's bill, I think it'd be a huge move. My wife should be getting you a link here to the petition because she is a boss. Appreciate your help, hon. But let's move into the possession here. We've got current law prohibits a person from manufacturing, distributing, or delivering with the intent to manufacture, distribute, or deliver, possessing, using drug paraphernalia, or to present to distribute. The bill changes state law to allow persons at least 21 to possess not more than 5 ounces of marijuana. That sounds pretty realistic to me, as far as if we're saving up for a while or if we're a heavier user due to, harder circumstances as far as ailments go. It also allows a qualifying patient to possess for medical purposes under the bill. A qualifying patient is an individual of any age who has been diagnosed by a physician as having or undergoing a debilitating medical condition or treatment. The bill also eliminates the prohibition on possessing or using drug paraphernalia that relates to marijuana consumption. That would be beautiful. I know people who have gotten fines for having rolling papers even though they didn't have anything else on them, which is just kind of silly. Under the bill, a person who's at least 21 who possesses more than 5 ounces is subject to a penalty, which varies depending on the amount. Under the bill, if the overage is not more than 1 ounce, the person is subject to forfeiture of not more than $100. If the overage is more than 1 ounce, but not more than 16 ounces, the person is guilty of a misdemeanor and subject to a fine of not more than $500. And if the overage is more than 16 ounces, the person is guilty of a misdemeanor and subject to a fine of not more than $1,000 or a sentence of imprisonment for 90 days or both. That is pretty respectful. Being that you have it, again, there's details to this. If you hit this, here's how much. If you hit that, here's how much. I think this is something that has a lot more thought into it, and it would make sense that she's been working on this for 11 years. In the last described case, the person is guilty of a class 1 felony. So if you had 16 ounces, but again, I think if the restriction set at 5 ounces, I think most of us would agree that that's pretty fair. That would last me a long time anyway. What about you guys? How long does 5 ounces last? Under the bill, a person who is 21 possesses is subject to penalty. That would make sense. More than 1/4 of an ounce, the person is subject to a forfeiture of not more than $50. Again, this is seeming more and more like a less such a bad substance out there. Setting some pretty realistic limits as far as fines go and stuff. It's really doing a good job of decriminalizing a plant, in my opinion. Regulating the production. This did a good job of breaking things down here. We've got the violation involves not more than 1 ounce. This gets really kind of wordy here. It goes up to 20 ounces. If a person, This one I'm going to kind of let you guys read it. Like I said, this one's really wordy, but it kind of breaks things down a little more. It just talks about where you'd be able to set up. Obviously, not within 500 feet of a school, playground, recreation facility, childcare facility. Pretty common sense stuff. Under the bill, permit applicant with 20 or more employees may not receive a permit from DCP or DOR unless the applicant certifies that the applicant has entered into a labor peace agreement with the labor organization. To me, that is a pretty awesome thing. What do you guys know as far as labor organizations go? I just know there's a lot of people that can get caught up in the cannabis industry with, oh, we've got a store, we're making good money, but we need to make sure the employees are taken care of as well. My understanding is this would make sure that if we have 20 or more employees, that we need to make sure that there is a peace agreement in place with the labor organization. To me, on the onset here, that would make sense. As far as we go to keep rolling here. Not more a minor, except for a minor who's a qualifying patient who doesn't need the following is subject to a forfeiture of not more than $250. So again, it's still going to keep fines in place for when wrongdoings happen, but we're not talking like you need to go to jail over a plant. You need, I'm sure there'd be cases where, and let me just see here. The person is guilty of a class 1 felony if the person also takes action to hide the number of plants he or she has, and the person also has a place security system to alert him or her the presence of law enforcement. Again, that's doesn't seem to. It seems almost fair. I mean, right here we've got 12. If the person possesses more than 12 plants that have reached the flowering stage, the person is guilty of a misdemeanor. Person without a permit who possesses more than 6 but not more than 12, subject to not exceed twice the permitting fee. Again, this just seems really well thought out. I feel like, again, not everything is going to be covered under here, but I feel like 90% of the circumstances you'd run into are in this bill. So I think we should all make sure we're checking it over, reading through, seeing if everything makes sense to us. I think it'd be a great time. Again, get that petition signed, get a public hearing, and make sure that we can be heard that there is a bill out there that is fair. It's just Voss is not letting it happen. That should be rewarded a little bit because a security system could fall under an alert to police. That's fair. I see what you're saying. That's a good point. Previous convictions relating to marijuana. The bill requires the director of state courts to review records of acts that have been decriminalized under the bill. That would be huge. I don't think Voss had anything about this in his bill. The sentencing court must be notified. If the act was a misdemeanor, the court must dismiss the conviction and expunge the record, or if applicable, redesignate it to a lesser crime. If the act was a felony, the court must determine if it is in the public interest to dismiss the conviction and expunge the record. Again, this just seems very well looked into, almost like somebody spent 11 years working on it. Finally, if the record is for an arrest or a charge for an act that the bill decriminalizes or lessens the penalty for, the director of state courts must expunge such records. I think while we're talking about this, now would be a great time to mention that also when you come to THC products, we got to make sure we have something in place for fair testing when it comes to the labs. And you'll see that's the next thing we have on the bill here. Again, we could have products that are being claimed to be anything. If they're not being checked, there's not much for checks and balances in place, especially in the hemp industry in Wisconsin right now. So to me, this would be a huge part of the industry. We've got the bill would require DATCP to register entities as THC testing laboratories. The laboratories must test for contaminants, research findings on the use of medical, and provide training on safe and efficient cultivation, harvesting, packaging, labeling, and distribution, security and inventory accountability, and research on medical marijuana. That I don't see anything about a limit on here. Again, with Voss's bill, it seemed like everything had a limit of 2 or 3, unless it was state-run dispensaries. Then it was 5. So this is nice to see that. I don't know that it would be. There's got to be a limit on everything, right? But labs, I feel like we should be able to have a couple labs for testing. I feel like checks and balances are a good thing. Discrimination based on use. This is good to see. It went into under fair employment. No employer or other person may engage in the act of employment discrimination against any individual on the basis of the individual's use or non-use of lawful products of the employer's premises during non-working hours, subject to certain inspections. This was something key that was missing in Voss's bill. It didn't talk about state-run benefits, anything with workplace employment, anything really of the matter. So I think that this would be something huge that we are going into legalization, talking about fair employment. I feel like that has to be part of the bill. And I think, again, if we take a look at Senator Agard's bill here, this should be an eye opener for Mr. Voss on what's missing on his side of things. Um, Thanks for stopping by, Austin. Sounds good, man. 2A, right? You would think so. Under current law, an individual may be disqualified from receiving unemployment insurance benefits if he or she is terminated because of misconduct. The bill specifically provides that employees' use of marijuana off the employer's premises during non-working hours does not constitute misconduct or substantial fault unless termination for that use is permitted under one of the exceptions under the Fair Employment Law. Thank you for covering that in a bill. I think that is huge. I think making sure, Cornelius, you people in Wisconsin are sheep. Oh, come on now, man. How can we help you? You sound like you have something you want to get off your chest. We're here to help. We're here to educate. We're here to be fair. Then we move along here to drug screening and testing. The bill exempts THC, including marijuana, from drug testing for certain public assistance programs. Boss, you're missing this in your bill. This is huge. Currently, a participant in a community service job or transitional placement under Wisconsin Works program or a recipient of the food share program who is convicted of possession, use, or distribution of controlled substance must submit to a test for controlled substances as a condition of continued eligibility. The Department of Health Services is currently required to request a waiver of federal Medicaid law to require drug screening. Again, all of this was missing from Mr. Voss's bill and creates a very open-ended situation as far as it seems like a quick fix. Here, you can have your medical, okay, but are you protecting the people that you are giving that to? Lisa, thanks for stopping by. Lisa's got to run back to work. Todd, there he is. Appreciate you stopping out, Todd. Always good to see you, man. We go here. The bill exempts THC from all those drug testing requirements and programs. In addition, because THC is not a controlled substance under state law, under the bill, the requirement under current law that the Department of Children and Families promulgate rules to create a controlled substance abuse screening and testing, more experienced program for non-conscious parents under W-2 in the transformed does not include THC. Unfortunately, I've heard a lot of things as far as families getting mistreated with CPS uses just because a parent smokes a joint when the kid is sleeping. I mean, obviously, we shouldn't be smoking around kids. That just shouldn't be a thing. So something like that, I could see somebody making a big scene. But again, if a parent is adult responsibly using something that has a bunch of medicinal effects to wind down at the end of the day, I don't think that would constitute WPS getting in the way of just making sure that we're taking care of our kids. Hey, Don, thanks for stopping by as always. Appreciate your time. They also went into here on equity grants and program for law enforcement training. Again, when I say thought out, the bill appropriates and there's $125,000 and $250,000 in physical for Department of Transportation's drug evaluation and classification program. This program provides training for law enforcement officers and others in recognition of drug influence and impairment. This is a big part that we're missing right now is the police don't know what to do when it comes to pulling people over. I think having some kind of getting the officers together and testing out different drug influence with, again, I would sign up to help. I'm sure a couple of you would. It's not saying we got to get completely blitzed, but smoke a couple joints, have some gummies, and let them do some field sobriety tests. Let them do some research. Let them figure out a way to do some kind of a safe and fair testing out in the field. And the fact that this bill talks about sending funds to do something like that, that's just way cool to me. That's something that makes a lot of sense, and I'm happy to see. Because this bill creates a new crime or revises a penalty for an existing crime, the Joint Review Committee may be requested to prepare a report because the bill relates to an exemption from state or local taxes. It may be referred to. I think this is where it really breaks down into, a few of the different parts. I want to skip forward here to a couple that really stuck out to me. Michael says you'd volunteer as well. See, we're all about community. This is established separate. Oh, right here. This to me was awesome. Community Reinvestment Fund. There's an established there is established a separate non-lapsable trust fund designated the Community Investment Fund, consisting of 60% of all monies received under subsection that's 4 of Chapter 139, including interest and penalties. That would make sense. The money that is taken in by the different law enforcement agencies, 60% of that is going back to the community. That, to me, that's huge. That's genius. We should be giving back to the communities. When we scroll down here a little more, let me just see where I'm at with my checklist. When I ran through this, I made a list. Let me see what we've covered so far. I don't know if you guys can see that. Let me make that a little larger. Legalize the possession of marijuana for those 21 and older. We hit on that. Possession for medical. We hit on that. Permits. Makes sense. Excess tax on marijuana. I need to verify what that is. And also, it says marijuana in the bill. I would like to change this to cannabis, but for going back and forth. 60% of tax revenue to a community reinvestment fund. Exempts medical from sales and excess tax. Makes sense. Plenty of other states do that. Adults can possess up to 5 ounces. We touched on that. Penalties vary based on the amount possessed. Makes sense. Different rules for those under 21. I can get down with that. Strict regulations on selling and distributing. That only makes sense. Established penalties for selling or distributing to minors. Obviously, those should be pretty severe. Permits required for lounges. That would be awesome. Again, if it's got to be done the right way, but we can go to bars and drink, and there are some people that do it and are fair with it. So I think it's nice to see that there's at least talks about lounges where people can go enjoy some cannabis and get a safe ride home. Labor peace agreements, we touched base on that for if they have 20 or more employees. Competitive scoring system for permit eligibility. That would be awesome. So it would look at a few different factors to figure out who should be getting licenses as far as it goes to permits for growing operations, sales, that kind of things. Prohibits permittees from selling or transferring to minors. Bingo. Little mini volcanoes everywhere, like in Colorado, no smoke. That's what's up. Individual cultivation of up to 6 plants allowed. Jill's lost. Oh no. Medical marijuana registry program established. But again, the people are covered. Like with Voss's bill, it says that people have to register, but then it doesn't say that you would still be able to get funding from any of the state. So that's just makes no sense. Redesignation or expungement of past related convictions. Huge. And again, missing in Voss's bill. Registration of THC testing labs. Makes sense. Fair employment law amended to include marijuana as a lawful product. Yes, please. Exempts THC from certain public assistance program drug testing. Absolutely. Allocates funding for law enforcement training and drug recognition. Bingo. Missing in Voss's bill. Grants for diversity and equity in production and sales. I would want to dig a little more into, but that sounds realistic and like a good thing on the top of it. Health equity grants and strategist positions created would be needed, and specific prohibitions on discrimination based on use. Again, about 28 things more than what I could find in the current bill that we have, and the fact that there is a bill out there that covers so much more, but because it is from the other side of the aisle, it can't be brought to the table to discuss. When I figured that out, that's just beyond frustrating. I do have some pretty awesome, I think it's awesome. I guess let's see what you guys' take is. So when I met with a lot of the Republicans, what I realized was, even with their staffers, the one staffer explained it best to me. He's like, there's a few people that are on this side of legalization and they want to have all the control of it. And there's a few people on this side which are, we don't want to legalize. But the majority of the people are in the middle, right? On both sides. They're in the middle and their issue is they don't know what they're dealing with. And when that was explained to me, I went into detail. We were talking, and they were asking a lot of questions just about cannabis, THCA, Delta 9, hemp derived. Well, it's hemp, so it shouldn't get you high. And it was really cool to see that they were appreciating me spending time answering their questions, to the point where the one gentleman, he's like, "Do you know no one's ever come to talk to us about cannabis?" And I was like, "What?" So you're just kind of like, he's like, "We have no idea what we're dealing with. It's so confusing with the Delta 9, THCA, da da da." So this made me realize, hey, these folks might, okay, we gotta remember, I don't know politicians all that well. I just hear, you hear what you hear. But I am one that gives people the time of day, or I trust them until they wrong me, and then that's a different situation. So it does definitely seem like, just as far as I even brought some products and I'm showing them on the table, like, here's what's legal in Wisconsin. And they're like, well, yeah, but that's CBD, right? I'm like, no, this is not CBD. This is THC. Well, yeah, but it's hemp. And I was like, yeah, but that doesn't change the fact that it's an intoxicant that you can get high from. And like there's just so much missing. And it's not necessarily their fault if there's nobody there to present them with information. So I took it as, okay, maybe this is like a little calling where, like, I could do this. I could try to help. Um, and I come to realize that you need to have a lobbying license if you want to talk to politicians for more than a couple hours, essentially. So I did apply for that. I'm not backed by a political party. I'm not backed by, a PAC or a company that's trying to tell me what to say. I legit um, applied for a license to lobby, essentially to be able to talk to politicians at the Capitol, just to help inform them with cannabis knowledge, information. And I think they could tell too. And I told them, like, I don't know everything about cannabis by any means. I mean, it's a very complex plant. But if we can sit down, you can tell me what you're looking for. And if I can't answer it, I'm sure that I have the contacts through you guys. Somebody like a Philip Scott or Josh over here in Appleton. Like, bro, we're here to help you guys. We just need to get on the same page. If we know what cannabis does, and then we're frustrated with you for not legalizing it, but you have no idea, I will give you the time of day. I will respect that that appears to be the case, and let's see if we can't figure this out together. And that's where, when I was surprised, I thought when I said, would you be interested in being on the podcast? And when they're like, yeah, we do that, I'm like, well, perfect. Now you can get on the channel. You can tell us how you feel, what your concerns are. Let's talk about this together. I think it'd be huge because, again, something isn't adding up. And if all it is education, let's go. They could easily educate themselves. They could, but I don't think like you'd just be able to Google and figure out you can buy a 3,500 milligram D8 bar in Wisconsin, which I don't think necessarily needs to be a thing. I don't know that they necessarily know that 50 milligrams of D8 can really mess a person up. But I get what you're saying. They definitely could reach out to people too. So all in all, I think it was pretty cool to be able to sit down, have these people. I was expecting them just to be kind of like, "What do you want? Get out of here." And it turned into, like, a couple times it was like, "Oh, I got to get going. I got to get to this thing that starts in 5 minutes." So we definitely took advantage of the time we had together, worked on the education piece of it, and I look forward to seeing what we can do to help get to the bottom of it. I think us being able to engage with them will be huge. Obviously, you guys can't come in here yelling at them. We need to be respectful about it, but I think it'll be a great chance for us to hopefully figure out what the real issues are that we have at hand here. When it comes down to it, there are plenty of places in Wisconsin to get good quality cannabis product, as most of you know. And if you don't know, please hit me up. I'll help you find a place near you. Otherwise, if you go out of state, obviously we know the risks that are involved with that. It's just pretty tough being that we're surrounded by so many legal states. And then the fact that we have a lot of places in Wisconsin that aren't doing the hemp thing correctly, unfortunately. So I think really focusing on the legalization, focusing on the education, I really think that's the way to go forward. Education is key. The history of hemp in Wisconsin is unbelievable. How deeply rooted it is. It's almost like now's the time. Now's our time. They're actually talking about it. There's two different bills out. One that's, in my opinion, one that's legit, one that's uh, trying to grab some votes. I don't know if you guys saw, but as far as when it comes to Voss, wouldn't even talk to Mary Feslowski, who I know I've heard for at least a couple of years. She's been a Republican senator that's been trying to at least get the ball rolling with medical. And so she's got some time into it, a couple of years worth. But when Voss writes the bill, he doesn't talk to her, doesn't look for her input. That's just that's just that's just silly to me. That's unacceptable. And it just really makes me wonder. One of the other things I think I've talked to you a couple about. So if you look at Twitter or you look at Facebook, I feel like I see Voss like making a big stink about a couple different things as far as the maps go, as far as legalization goes, and his bill is good. But I don't really see hardly anyone else in the Republican Party using their platform of social media to portray the same things, which is a little interesting to me. It makes me wonder what's really going on. Waldo Hempworks, I've heard that as well. I don't think he talked to anyone. I mean, the fact that LeMahieu, another Republican, also said, and he's pretty stingent on uh, several different topics like Voss is, but the fact that he said state-run dispensaries is a non-starter, you got people in your own party that are questioning or saying that your bill is not good or is not even. It just doesn't make sense. So I'm really hoping that with getting some education to the people in office sets something in motion here, and a big part of that's going to be you guys, because when it comes down to um, like, let's say we're looking at Agard's bill. Let's say there's something we disagree with. It'd be really nice to be able to say, out of 10,000 of us, half of us voted, and here's where we thought maybe this could be tweaked a little. It's hard when you go in somewhere and you're like, oh, I think we should change this. I bet you the majority thinks that way. We have raw data that we can be working together to help come up with. One of the other ideas that was pitched to me is that we could try to write our own bill and then submit it. That sounds a little confusing or a little like a lot of work, because there'd have to be a lawyer to draft it, more than likely this, that, the other. But it's just crazy to me that it sounds like the biggest issue with Agard's bill is that she's a Democrat. That is so frustrating. Like, the fact that we can't work together is just frustrating. Nothing short of frustrating. So maybe it takes something like that, but I'm definitely going to start by just seeing if we can sit down, educate, and because it did seem like most Republicans are still striving for medical, but obviously with less baloney that Voss had, mainly like the whole state-run dispensaries. That was kind of across the board. It seemed like everyone was against that or didn't quite understand it. Um, and it's tough because a lot of them said, well, I voted for, or I'm going to vote for Voss's bill because at least it gets the ball rolling. I mean, yeah, but no. If we start with that bill, I feel like if that bill passes, it's going to take so long to undo some of the stupidity, where I feel like if we could actually just work together on a bill, you would think it's not the end of the world to ask that. But again, there must be something behind the scenes. But if I can I'll do whatever I can. Again, with the lobbying license, that would get me more time to talk to these people to try to help educate. And I really think that, again, at least from what I'm gathering, that's what appears to be something that they need. So I'm really looking forward to spending a little more time down there, presenting some stuff. I'm putting together a few different numbers as far as tax revenue from Michigan, tax revenue from Illinois, the start of Minnesota. I mean, really, I know I've said this a few times, but the fact that we're late to the party should, in theory, help us, because we can look at data that's been generated by the states around us, or the 38 states that have some form of legalized cannabis. So the excuse shouldn't be we don't know what we're doing. We're not the first ones to do it. We're not out here inventing an airplane, and no one's ever flown off the ground before. It's quite literally we're at the airport with a ton of airplanes, and now we're working on an airplane. Don't be afraid to ask the people around you. Like, you waited this long, why don't you get it right? We don't have to just push it off a cliff and watch it burn. Let's build this freaking airplane up. Let's do it right. Let's take off, and just it keeps getting better. Not because we're stuck with Voss's baloney. Like, 3 billion. Oh, gotta catch up here quick. She's putting in the work. Her bill is comprehensive. I'm backing her bill. Felt that. So if Agard leaves to become Dane County executive, what happens to the bill? My understanding would be that as long as whoever's in charge, that the bill could still be brought to a committee at this point or brought up for discussion. So I'm thinking the maps is a good thing, from the fact that people are actually going to have to, like, not just stand back and be super conservative on either side of the aisle. It's going to have to be, hey, the majority of your constituents are talking to you. You better act on that. Not, oh, I bet you can just sit back and make a fake pill bill. So I think if the Democrats were to take the reins, or if somebody bumps Voss out of the way, I think that the bill could still be introduced. That's my understanding. Philip might have a little more on that. Philip said one of her colleagues would keep moving her language forward. There you go. Yep, that makes sense. For those who don't know, Philip's the man. Philip, he makes my head spin sometimes, but in a good way. 3 billion. Anyone? And why not work to reverse Act 10 and allow the people to pass bills through referendum or ballot? That kind of makes sense. Maybe that's an easier way to tackle legalization and less threatening to the Republicans. Perhaps. I would be interested to see. I know, like, again, Susie, she's one of our top contributors. She's always on point with her input, and she was the one who helped me realize. She said, well, just don't forget, in Arizona we didn't vote to legalize with the first bill they gave us. The first bill was not a good bill. It would have been similar to like a Voss bill. So she had to make sure that she got the people together to vote no on that, and it took them a couple years to get it right. So again, I think if we can get it working together with both sides of the aisle, that's going to be the quickest way to do it. Where it's like, well, maybe we should put out a poll to the people. How come they don't ever poll the people? Like, hey, we're thinking of doing this. What do the people who vote think about it? Not even necessarily on the referendum, but just in general. Because again, if it's a vote, it's typically, do you want this or not? It's not so much like, give us your quick feedback and let's adjust. Like, I guess I don't quite understand why there's never been anything that's, I shouldn't say there's never been anything, but I haven't heard anything in Wisconsin about legalization in an open forum or an open discussion in public. And that's just super frustrating. Joseph, thanks for stopping by from California. Oh, we got ganja lovers in here. Those guys are dope. Thanks for swinging out. They always are on the different platforms talking about all things cannabis, and have helped make a couple great connections actually across the U.S. So just to follow up, I did also have a great chat today with the folks over at HempFest. Looks like we have a few possible connections as far as working on education, working on the fest this year, which is in Madison, and all together just a great time as far as coming together. We do have a couple updates that are a little interesting. I've got the place where we booked the Lebowski Fest has now informed me that they're showing the movie The Lebowski like a week or two after the fest, so they think it would be hurt people from going to that. Doing a last minute quick check on a couple different options. Definitely not something I was expecting to hear, and almost seeing it is what it is. So I'll double check with you guys on that here. And then also the Cottonmouth Kings. That is a lot more work than I was thinking it was going to be, as far as I thought it'd be kind of like, here's some venues, here's some sponsors. I'm in talks with a couple people who would basically, they've been promoting events before and seeing if it's something that they can help rein in. It's just getting to be a lot of, this place says they can do it, but only if it's that day from this time to that time. But then this other place can only do that. So if I've realized anything over the last week, I think the most helpful, or the most damage I can do as far as getting these blocks of legalization is bad tore down, is spending some time at the Capitol. So I will be focusing on that this coming week. I had a couple more representatives and senators reach out that I dropped cards off with that would be able to sit down and talk. So definitely we'll have everything figured out here shortly on the front with the events and that. Still going to try to keep the date and try to keep it in Green Bay. We've got a place just down the road that was cool with it. It just seems like that's what I've always run into in Green Bay. Like, oh yeah, we'd like to do that, and then as you get closer, it's kind of like they get cold feet or whatever it's called. They start backing off. So we'll have to see where that ends up. Um, Shout out to DNA Hemp. They were the supplier of tonight's pregame material, like the CBD flower from time to time when I'm looking to stay somewhat focused. They grow all their own. That was on point. Huge shout out to, again, Higher Love for keeping this thing rolling. What do you guys have for questions for the beans here? I know you folks have got some questions. Let's talk about some stuff. What do you got on your mind, people? Let's make this a group sesh. Ooh, all that root beer. Zero sugar. She's gone. She's gone. Who's got questions? Oh, there's your promo code in the comments. Appreciate that, my dear. Joseph in the house. One of her colleagues keep moving her language. Doubling down on the Voss bill, right? I'm just catching up on comments here. Fazowski is submitting her own bill, so they won't support Voss bill. That would be interesting. I wouldn't mind that. We also got the code for Tabbies. Again, if you're looking for THCA flower, get the code for 20% off. Highly recommend Z Claire. That stuff is very nice, very clean. Okay, who's got questions? Come on now. I need y'all's help. I thought I was going to read more of the bill, but my head's starting to hurt from bill talk. I can only do so much actual bill talk, and I hit on everything I could think of. Tax. I do want to check that while we're waiting on the next comment, what the tax was in here. Come on now. Who's got an idea? Who's got what would you change about the bill if you had something? Jill says, how do we get rid of Voss? Well, my understanding is he is large and in charge, and it's going to be hard to find somebody to beat him in his own district as far as like somebody running against him. But I believe somebody could also run for his spot that he has in the House of Representatives, and I think that's the likely route. At least that's just my understanding. Do we vote for the Lions now? I say yeah. I'd say when you've seen a team suffer for that long, I'm thinking that's what we do. Jennifer says get out and vote. Absolutely. I got something really cool I'm working on for kind of getting loud about voting. Think you guys will get a kick out of it. That's not too far out. As far as the tax goes, let's see, excess. I want to see what Agard had in the bill here. 15% is the excess, it looks like. Or wait, producer. An excess tax is imposed on a cannabis producer at the rate of 15% of the sales price on each wholesale or transfer of this state of cannabis to a cannabis processor. Paragraph applies. An excess tax is imposed on a cannabis retailer or operator of a cannabis lounge at the rate of 10% of the sales price. That doesn't seem too bad. Much better than like Illinois, let's say. Be sure to get registered to vote. Get your voice heard. Absolutely agree. Vote him out. Again, I don't know that there's anybody poised to run against him in his district, but again, we got to get him out of his. What is his title even? The Speaker of the House, right? Speaker of the Wisconsin State Assembly. Yeah, that should definitely change. I'm sorry, boss. Dustin and his Niners. Yeah. We heard you last week. 5 ounces seems like a small amount for a 7-plant grow, and or you want to make concentrates. That is fair. When is his seat up? That's a great question. I don't know I'm kind of confused with the maps, the gerrymandering and that changing. I suppose I should ask some people when I'm at the Capitol. But here we go. 24th, ninth term, every 2 years. Yeah, and I don't know when he was up last. Oh, it looks like he ran in 2022. So yeah, that should be coming up. But again, it sounds like there's nobody to take his spot. Um, Cornelius, you're a treat. We're gonna block you, buddy. We gave him a chance. We asked him what his beef was, and he's just talking smack. Did you make your calls to your elected representatives yet? That's huge. I agree with that. There's a couple of them that were sweating. They're like, "Oh, we're glad you're here. We got people asking us about what is this," and they don't know what you guys are asking them. So stay on them, because if anything, that keeps them knowing like we got to keep getting educated. Um, I believe it is up to the Supreme Court for the maps. Yes, that is true. Being that thankfully Evers put it down the Voss again. I've voted both parties in the past. I don't sway one way or the other, especially now. I just want to see people working together, and I don't think it should be that big of an ask. Um, but when I saw Voss was tied to his maps or what it like, that just anything Voss is in control of, I'm scared of. That's just me personally. Just knowing what he's done so far. We need to find someone. That's what I was thinking, but I think run against Voss, Bobby. I don't know about that one. I don't know that I should be a senator or a representative. I feel like I'm a little not. I don't know. I just if I was sitting across from Voss, or if I was in the Capitol and I had access to Voss in his location, I wouldn't go beat him up. Okay, I can't get in trouble. I've never been in a fight. I am a make love, not war kind of guy. However, I tell you what, I'd be knocking on dude's door, and I would be whatever we're supposed to be talking about on the floor or the Senate House, the wherever. Voss, what are we doing, dude? What are you doing? Why? Like some kind. You can't just tell me, oh, this is what I think is best, and then not talk to the people about it. Like I would definitely, yeah. I don't know that that's a good idea. um, with 6 plants, is there a cap on how many can be in flower like Minnesota, or strictly no more than 6? That's a great question, because I know like I think what would make the most sense is like 18 plants or so that you can kind of have the few different stages, and then in case something happens. Oh wow, what is this? As long as the person holds a valid permit, if the permit plants grows. Oh, that's interesting. Here, I'll show you this. Kind of again, Voss. Especially if we're comparing the two bills, it is kind of just laughable, because look how much time is in. And again, this might not be perfect, but it's something to talk about and discuss. Because on Agard's bill here, how do I get this back up here? Oh, that's way too small. There we go. Make me small. On Agard's bill here, it breaks down. So essentially, if the permittee plants grow not more than 1,800 plants, it's $1,800. If the permittee grows under 3,600, it's 2,900. So again, it's set for different levels. There's just so much more in-depthness to this thing. Let's find a couple more while we're in here. Testing laboratories. Discharge for use. Challenge the county department under. Oh man, yeah, I kind of can't read too much more of this. Do you think who ends up on the presidential ballot will influence whether people will come on and vote for our assembly? That's a great question. I would hope not, especially knowing how many things are close to home that are on the horizon here with what happens in the assembly. But I think again that might come down to us helping educate, just because in the past, not everyone gets the message. Waldo, that comment you have has some good and bad to it. We'll kind of leave it at that. I think we need to dig into people pretty well before we get them up here on a podium. Depending on the new maps, I would consider another run, maybe for state senate this time. Hey, that's what's up, man. Six seed. There you go. Six seedlings, six in veg, and six in flower. From what I read, remember. Okay, that seems more than respectable in my opinion. And I thought there was something on here about. Hang on here. Again, please make sure you guys kind of check this out. We got the link in the comments there for you. Please make sure we get that petition signed. It can't hurt. As we continue to try to get some education to some of the other folks that are running for office, that there is a lot of support for this other bill. Try not to leave it so that our only thing is with Mr. Voss's. An applicant with 20 or more employees. We touched on that. Tobacco products. Here we go. No marijuana retailer or operator of marijuana lounge may hold a permit or license to sell alcohol, tobacco products, or cigarettes on the premises of retail operation or lounge. I was interested in what your guys' take was on that. I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing. When it comes to, I would like to see the people around cannabis being super knowledgeable of cannabis. And I mean, I know like beer, obviously beer is beer, so you would think that would fit too, but I don't necessarily, again, I don't want to over restrict anything, but I don't know that we necessarily need access to all those different things at one time. So I'm not totally against that, but I'd be interested on what your guys' take are. Christy says absolutely medical means nothing if you can't afford or access your medicine legally, right? Definitely persons with medical should be able to grow their own. I agree with that. Well, yeah, infused cocktails are delicious. Can agree with that for sure. After denying a permit, applies for a permit, shall application fee. For some reason, I thought I was missing one more thing on here that it wasn't in my notes. We touched on everything there, but I thought this was pretty good. Here it is. A marijuana or a cannabis processor, excuse me, oh bad, or a micro business that operates as a processor shall affix a label to all usable cannabis that the cannabis processor or microbusiness sells to cannabis distributors. This label may not be designated to appeal to persons under the age of 18. Makes sense. Don't make it look like a tricks label. The label shall include all of the following: the ingredients and the tetrahydrocannabinoids concentration in the usable cannabis, the producer's business or trade name, the producer's permit number, the harvest batch number, the harvest date, the strain name and product identity, the net weight, the activation time, the name of laboratory performing any test, the test batch number and the test analysis date, the logo type for recreational cannabis developed by the Department of Agriculture, Trade and Consumer Protection, and then warnings about the risks of cannabis use in pregnancy and risk of cannabis use by persons under the 18. Hello, that would be awesome. That's something that I wish was like in the hemp industry right now. I think it would help with a lot of different things to be upfront with where the stuff's coming from, where it was tested, activation time. It's a lot, but I think there's room for it, and I think it has a place. No beer, less fighting. Those typically go hand in hand. I would agree with that. So, again, please take some time to check this over. We got a lot of big things coming up. Going to be hanging out at the Capitol a lot. Please send me questions you have for your elected officials. I'll be happy to ask that to them. Stay tuned for a lot of interviews coming up with them. Just all in all, we got a lot of things cooking right now, guys. Appreciate everyone's support. And it appears the politicians are ready to start talking to us. So I'm really hoping to be able to facilitate that with the podcast here coming up. I know Senator Agard, she's going to be on the podcast. I'll have to double check, but I think that's right around February 15th or 16th. Obviously looking forward to that. And then we got a couple senators both sides of the aisles, a couple representatives both sides of the aisles. So let's start thinking about some really good questions. Again, we got to treat these people fair. Try to keep your comments respectful. I know it's been frustrating that we haven't really been able to talk to people, but if they're taking the time to come on here to talk to us, we need to make sure that we at least do our best to keep things respectful for them. Obviously, I'll be monitoring the comments, but please still try to keep them together, keep them clean. let's give these guys a chance. If they're coming to talk to us, let's be open-minded about it, and we'll be able to go from there. Just take it off the feds list, be done with it everywhere, right? I did see something, an article here. Let's pull it up to make sure. So that was Schedule 3 by August. I wanted to see if this was a legit. Can't remember where I saw it. I thought it said. I read through so many posts and stuff in a day. I'm struggling now to remember. Oops, that's not what I wanted. Cannabis. Well, I think they call it marijuana, so unfortunately, I'm gonna have to type that real quick. Marijuana reschedule by. Oh, somebody said that they heard, which again, that's only what you say it is. Darn it. Well, I'll have to keep an eye out. Somebody said that they heard from somebody on this board or DEA something, that they were hoping to have it descheduled or rescheduled by August. But yeah, even that deschedule, it just makes sense. Of course, you can catch more flies with honey, especially if it's infused. Hey, that's pretty good. I should bring them some drinks and let you guys make them ahead of time, and start saving your empty pop cans. We'll figure out a way to shouldn't say that out loud. I'm probably gonna get in trouble somehow. It's just how that works. Why does Michigan spell it marijuana with a H? That's a great question. I have seen that a handful of times. Once it's off the Fed list, then it becomes the state's problem. That's fair. That would make sense. So maybe they're scared to do that too. Who knows? But again, there's just something with this Voss fella. Maybe he watches my streams and that's why he doesn't talk to me. But again, if I had an issue with somebody, I'd want to sit down and explain, hey, no, you've got me misunderstood. But the guy says that the Tony Evers maps are 99%. We're resubmitting with it 99% the same. Well, then why are you so upset if you're 99% the same? I don't know. I try not to talk bad about people. But when I don't know. I'm just going to leave it at that. That is what we're dealing with there. So again, please do some research on Melissa Agard's bill. It was published here a couple months ago, so it hasn't really been in the limelight. I have the petition to sign to have the public hearing on cannabis legalization. That's right, pinned to the homepage of the Facebook. Please make sure you check that out, get that signed. Please share it if you haven't yet with your friends and family. Let's get that thing rolling. Let's see how many comments. We're aiming to be at 1,500 by the end of next week. See how you guys are doing. Don't look at my password here. Okay, it didn't make me. Oh, we're at 1384. Nice. I think we're going to hit that. Let's keep that rolling. That's awesome. Somebody signed it 37 minutes ago. Awesome. Let's keep that rolling. Again, it doesn't hurt. Creates more awareness. And then we're also going to be getting these signatures. I have it on here somewhere. The signatures go to Senator Agard. Obviously, she is one who would be more than happy to do a public hearing on cannabis legalization. So we need to get that taken care of with the other side of the aisle. I'm sure he's watching. I wouldn't be surprised. Voss wouldn't return my calls either, even when I try saying it's about the farm bill. Yeah, I will. I'll keep dropping flyers by that guy. I saw him in the hallway once. He was 15 feet from me, and I hope I get closer to be able to talk to him. We'll see. Sir, I voted for you before, but we'll be voting for someone else this time. Hey, I think there's a lot of that, unfortunately. So let's keep doing our thing, guys. We've got a great thing going with the movement, creating awareness, working together, bouncing ideas off each other. Let's keep rocking and rolling. Appreciate everyone's support. Why don't you guys have a great weekend? Get to spend some time with your family, hang out, relax, smoke one for Bobby Beans. I'd love to smoke one with all you guys here at some point, or grab some cannabis, seltzers, gummies, whatever, man. Again, if I notice anything with you guys, we're all pretty similar in the fact that we're just here to enjoy enjoy life and fight for what we believe in. And I don't think we can ask for much more. So go Bucks. Yeah, we got that new coach. Let's go. Everyone have a great night. Appreciate you swinging out. Stay tuned. Sure we'll have more soon. Have a good night, everybody. Bobby Bean.